Right, we're recording. All right. Well, thank you, Rene, Professor Campo, for being with us today. My name is Steve Berry. I help with the Radcliffe Entrepreneur Scholarship, and part of that program is we have some awesome mentors that help our students in many ways. And Professor Rene Campo is one of those mentors. So, Professor Campo, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Anne Arundel Community College.
All righty. So as you said, I'm Professor Campo, and I've been with the college since 2012. I'm an adjunct faculty member, and I teach a whole host of classes. I've taught Intro to Business, Business Communications, Professional Ethics, Management, Leadership, Intro to Supply Chain Management, Introduction to Transportation and Logistics. So, and also, I teach in person, I've taught online, hybrid, virtual, and recently I may have seemed like I was absent, but I was out in the high schools teaching quite a few of our college courses, which are on site at the high schools, and that was a really good learning experience for me. It was something different going into it, but I learned from them as well. They keep me hip, and it has taught me to be a better educator, So I say that because I have all experience with all ages, not just adult learners, but some of the younger people and older as well. So primarily that is my role. I do seek out other committees. I've been on for the past 2 years on the Adjunct Faculty Affairs Committee, trying to help or look at these unique challenges for us that are in the part-time role of teaching, and excited to, get back in with entrepreneurial studies and help out.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and I'm I'm glad to hear you say that you learn from the students, because I think that's one thing that is so exciting about teaching and mentoring, is that we who are in that role also learn and try to improve every year. I think.
Oh yeah.
And that's a lesson that we try to impart upon our students, is you never arrive. You're always getting better, always.
Yeah.
So tell us, you described a lot of classes that you teach
Right.
all over the place there. So tell us about your business experience, and we'll just leave it at that. Tell us about your business experience.
It's funny. I used to say, maybe I still say, jack of all trades, master of nothing. And that all that experience being across the board is the thing that helps me the most as a professor, because at some time I could be talking about, my working in transportation, and then the next minute pivoting to a nonprofit. So, I'm a mix of business and higher ed. My degrees are in business. I cut my teeth after college working for UPS, which was fantastic. I was trained as a manager for them. So I worked in an operations environment and so forth. And then I went on to a more professional role in corporate travel. But my first pivot, and that seems to be the word of the day with all of our lives, having to pivot, was when I got engaged and got married, and my husband got orders to move overseas. So that was my, first venture, and just moving and living in Europe is something that has helped me tremendously in my role as an instructor, to understand the cultural differences and so forth. But when I moved over, when you're a military dependent or spouse, you can't just work on the economy in these countries, because you would take jobs away from, in my case, it was Germany. And one of the only positions that looked exciting on posts was at the education center, and it was the city colleges of Chicago, and it was an enrollment counselor and an advisor to try to help the soldiers and their families who were overseas pursue a degree. So that's how I got into the administrative side of higher education. After I came back from Europe, went back into business again. I worked for an internet startup, and this was in 2000 when, everyone thought they were going to be a millionaire and get stocks and stuff like that. that didn't happen, but that company actually was eventually bought out by Citibank. So they did well. They did well. Then I knew I had an opportunity to go back into higher ed at 4 year. I was director of corporate outreach, which was a business role within the college. And I use this as an example for my students as well. You know, you work for a nonprofit, you may not make a high salary, but you know what? They pay for my master's. So after that was finished, it all kind of coincided too with becoming a mother. And I decided that I was going to work part-time, which is when I went into the role of being a professor, which I actually started up in the Philadelphia area. Anyway, so that's where I have been in the higher ed world, whether teaching or administratively over the past 15 years. And honestly, I'm looking ahead at other, I'd like to get a link back to business too in the future. When I don't have to worry about my son and high school and things like that, I look forward to getting a link back to that too.
Mhm. Well, something you said I want to just follow up on. Just but your experience is very varied, and you know things happen, and you have to change. And you use the word pivot,
Yep.
change your own, and that's something we want to teach. You know, and part upon our students is you might have this vision of where you're going, but things happen, pandemics happen,
Right.
and someone said, you know, instead of using the word pivot, use the word innovate. Is you have to innovate because pivot implies
Yeah.
you're staying in the same place and going in circles, but
Oh,
innovate.
okay.
And I like that. I like that. But you know, pivot is a popular word now, and
Oh,
we use
it
it.
is.
But we all have to innovate, and we've been doing that for the last 6 months now with this with COVID, and
Yep.
we'll be doing it for years to come. So that's great. So you're a mentor now, and we've asked you to do that. So why did you say yes to being a mentor?
Okay. Well, it's actually, not new. Maybe seems new now, but you'll probably remember I've been a mentor several times in years past. Um, Maybe not as much in an official role like this is. It's a little more structured. So I love, working with students on a closer basis where you get to know them. I use the example of a student that I was working with. It was a veteran, military veteran. And this was when I was an advisor for the Student Veterans Association. He wasn't even taking a business class, but just in talking to him, he had this idea for a cyber security company. And just listening to him, and I use that term, I highlight that because I focus and I teach my students, there's not enough, good listening is not taught enough because you will learn a lot. So after listening to him, I'm like, wow, this guy is not only brilliant, but he really wants to do this. So I looked for and found a program for him in New York City. You had to apply to it. It was like a Patriot boot camp where it was hosted by the corporate world, and they brought in veterans who wanted to have their business and gave them guidance and so forth. So that started to springboard them. And then I said, hey, we have this big idea competition here that you could enter, you could get funds, you could have support from the school. And he did it and he won. It wasn't a smooth ride. It was definitely bumpy after that too, as all entrepreneurs look at. Some people really like and need the stability of a job and benefits. And at one point, this student, his wife was expecting and she wasn't going to be working. He's looking to start this company. And then the NSA, a government job, says, hey, we want you back. We can pay you and you're going to have this stable salary. And, so he had to face a lot of things, but, I'm proud of those efforts. And he was just recently named to the Annapolis Small Business Recovery Team that's working now. So he's really giving back, and he does a lot for new entrepreneurs as well, which is common, you know, that you see that with entrepreneurs reaching back and trying to help the next group go forward. So the experiences that I've had have been great, and I was excited to get the offer again to do this. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, good. We're looking forward to having you. And isn't it nice to see when a student you worked with actually progresses and does something, and is, you know, and you see the path they go
Absolutely.
on and where they end up, or where they, you know, and I think I know the student you're talking about, and no telling where he's going to go. So
Yeah.
what is it, we have a couple more questions, and I'm sensitive to time here. What is it you want your mentees to get out of their experience with you, Ms. Campbell?
Well, you know, I thought about this, and the mentee or the proteges or whatever you want to call, you know, it's a relationship, and every relationship is defined by the needs, right? And it's going to be different. It's your relationship. They are going to lead how the relationship develops and what their needs are. And that's where the listening comes in, and you build those relationship, and I ask questions, and I see where they are, you know. I hope once I see what that is, then take the steps to get them what they need. Is it something that I can do? You know, is it on the writing and the communications and the public speaking? Can I find someone who is in their industry already doing really well, who wants to share? So I truly believe that you need to go in more on like a fact finding and listening to what their needs are, and then grow it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think I mean, you use the word relationship, and I think every one of our mentors has said that, you know,
Yeah,
building a relationship and that network with the student that goes beyond just this semester.
of course.
Yeah. So, you know, as you look back on your business life and your career and everything, anybody give you advice that you wished you had listened to, or what do you wish you had done differently? Or?
That's a good question. I should have listened to people that said, don't work at night. You know, I tell all my students with UPS, when do you think most of the work happens? It happens at night. There are few things that happen during the day. And I worked at night as a very young manager. So maybe I wish I would have listened to someone say, you know, don't do that, whatever. But I can't say that I've ever, I mean, I really do listen to advice that was given to me, and follow it. So I can't think there's anything that I didn't do that someone told me. I listen, it comes up again. I'm a listener.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, you know, students need to listen to what they're hearing as
Yep.
well. So thank you for your time. I have one more question for you, and it's just kind of an open-ended question. What else do you want the students to know about Professor Rene Campo?
I say this in my classes too. I like learning to be fun. I use that word because a lot of people have this connotation with anything that's involved with school or learning isn't an enjoyable experience, right? Or there's a good chunk. But why not enjoy the experience while you're going through it? And when you feel that way, you retain more. So I think you know, I would almost wish you could ask my students who have had me, you know, what they say, and we have a great time, even online. You know, we talk about current events, we talk about the real world, and just enjoy it. It should be an enjoyable, and I use the word fun as my philosophy of learning. So, you know, I want it to feel like that.
Well, good. Well, you know, have a great time this semester with your students. I hope they have fun. I know they will. And I appreciate your time. We all appreciate you being with us and
Thank you.
stepping in like you did. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yes, let's hope.